Good. I'm not checking. Confidence. Honor system. We're starting on Daf Nun Zayin. I see from blank expressions that some people did not. Okay, good. It's on the WhatsApp group. You'll see it. I just recorded to the end, to the Mishnah. Only this way, again, we have a chance of finishing the Daf today. So we'll say we're picking up at the Mishnah, Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, 57a, at the Mishnah. Hakol Nichnasin L'dir. We'll say our shir this morning is dedicated, first of all, Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Sivan. David and Roberta Schwartz dedicating all of the shiurim this month in honor of the special members of the Kehillah, to Maish and Devorah Wordesheim for dedicating shir in honor of their son Avi, who successfully completed his medical boards. Mazel Tov.
Hopefully we'll. Today's.
We said it already one way. So once we said it, halavai should be a schus. Emir Hashem, the Gemara says there's no more nevuah now. Now there's only nevuah ultimately by children and shotim. I do some pretty foolish things in life, so therefore maybe I'm begeder shotim. So maybe halavai should be a schus that Avi should successfully complete his medical boards with Shatov Mitzlachas. To thank you to Naftali and Be'el Anger. Naftali Shkoyach. Nice to see you here. Welcome. So Le'ili Nishmas Chana Rachel Bas Naftali Yitzchak. We hope that of the merit of the Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an Aliyah, and the family in Nechama. Thank you for the sponsorship. And to thank you to Hilly Kagan for dedicating this shir in honor of the Magidei Shir and Maishi Abramson, who make it possible to follow the daf via the internet. Shkoyach to everyone. Okay, well, say with that, let's begin. Says the Mishnah, Hakol Nichnasin L'dir. So we'll say again, if you didn't do your homework, it was posted on the WhatsApp group. You'll see it's just a 10-minute clip to get us up to the Mishnah. Hakol Nichnasin L'dir Lehis Aser. So I will say ultimately again, all types of animals are included in the pen for Meiser Behema purposes. Chutz Min HaKilayim, with the exception of an animal that is a result of interbreeding. Treifa, an animal will say which is a treifa. So remember from our Chulin days, what constitutes a treifa? The Yotze Dof, an animal born via C-section. Umechusar Zman, an animal ultimately again that is Mechusar Zman. We'll say Mechusar Zman means first 7 days. First 7 days. Remember again, so it can't be offered up as a carbon, therefore it does not come into the Meiser Behema tally. V'hayasam, so any yasam. What's a yasam? Vezu yasam. Kol shemei se'ima, any animal whose mother died in childbirth, Oshen ishchata v'achar kach sheyalda, or it was slaughtered and then gave birth. So we'll say any animal whose mother was not alive once the offspring came into the world. Rabbi Yeshua says, Afilun ishchata ima. Rabbi Yeshua says, even if the mother was shechted, as long as v'hashalach kayim, the hide is still intact. We'll discuss what that means. Ein ze yasm. Such an animal is not called the yasm, not called an orphan, and therefore would be included in the Meiser Behema tally. So Menachani Mili says, the Gemara, from where do we know this? The Tan Rabban is supposed to, what the Gemara is asking over here is, from where do we know all of these different exclusions? So the Mishnah just excluded a variety of different animals from the Meiser Behema count. From where do we know that? So the Tan Rabban on Shar O Kasev Prat Kilayim. When the pasuk says Shar O Kasev, that comes to exclude Kilayim, interbreeding, O A's or an A's Prat Nidmeh. So I'll say ultimately again, that excludes a Nidmeh. Remember again, as Rashi points out, a Nidmeh is the result of an A's and a Rachel. Ki Valeit, when it's born, Prat Liotze Dofen. This comes to exclude a cesarean section. V'hayash shivas yamim, and it will be for 7 days with its mother. Prat l'mechusar zman. We saw this in yesterday's daf. That comes to exclude a mechusar zman, that an animal less than 8 days old, less than 8 days old, is not included in the Meiser Behema count. Tachas imo, right underneath its mother. Prat liyasam. This comes to exclude ultimately a yasam from Meiser Behema. Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch Omer. So Rabbi Shmuel ben Yochanan ben Baruch says, Ne'emar kan tachas hashevet, v'ne'emar lahalan tachas imo. So we'll say, it says over here, tachas hashevet. This phrase is by Meiser Behema. V'chol maaser bakar v'tzon kolasha ya'avor tachas hashavet. Hasir yakodesh laHashem. Any animal that comes under the staff, the 10th animal will be Kodesh Lashem. So it says, Tachas by Meiser Behema, V'nemar Lahalon Tachas Imo. And it says, ultimately, and I will say this is by the halacha, that the animal must remain with its mother for 7 days. And only from 8 days and on is it fit for the Mizbeach. So also it says, Tachas by Mechusar Zman, and it says, Tachas by Meiser Behema. Watch this. Ma Lahalon Prat L'chol Hashemos Halalu, just like Bible said the din of Mechusar Zman, all of these halachos that we said apply. Afkan Prat L'chol Hashemos Halalu. So too over here by Meiser Behema, we'll say, all of these exceptions apply as well. So we'll say, interestingly enough, Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, or I should say Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, is not arguing on the Mishnah. He's just simply highlighting or advancing the idea that perhaps these halachas come from a different source. So the Tanakhama is learning it out ultimately again from the exclusions of Shar o Kesev o Eis, learning it out from Mechusar Zman. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, is just learning it out from a Gzera Shava of Tachas. I says the Gemara, well, if that's the case, Umakan Prat L'Treifa. So I'll say, if you're going to say ultimately again by Meiser Behema, there's an exclusion or an exception for Treifa, that a Treifa animal is excluded from Meiser Behema. Af Lahalon Prat L'Treifa. So Tzreba will say ultimately again, when it comes to Mechusar Zman, I should also say that there is an exclusion for Treifa as well. To which the Gemara says, Hakol la suye mai. So we'll say, so when the Mishnah says Hakol, what does Hakol come to include? This is incredible. So the Gemara says, La suye hadatan rabana. We'll say, remember again, the Mishnah begins with an inclusive statement of Hakol nichnasin lodir lihis aser. All animals come into the pen for Meiser Behema purposes. Then the Mishnah gives a list of exclusions. These are right. Everything comes in to the pen for Meiser Behema except for these. We know enough Gemara to know that whenever you see a phrase like Hakol, so Hakol comes to include something. So obviously the Mishnah is listing the exclusions. So what does Hakol come to include? Hakol asuye mai, leasuye hadatan rabbanan. We'll say it comes to include the following. Here we go. So the Gemara says, Harova v'hanirva, an animal ultimately again that sodomized a human being or that was sodomized by a person. V'amuktzeh, an animal set aside for idolatry. V'ne'avad, or one worshipped for idolatry. V'esnan, or one given to a harlot as payment for her services. V'hamechir, or one sold for a dog. V'tumtum v'adrogenis, or a tumtum and androgynous. Kulan nichnasin ladir lehis aser. But say the Brisa says all of these animals are fit for Meiser Behema. Interesting. All of these animals are fit for Meiser Behema. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda says in Rabbi Shimon, Tumtum va'androgynous ein nichnasin ladir lehis aser. So we'll say Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says in Rabbi Shimon, he agrees with all of them except for Tumtum and androgynous. Tumtum and androgynous do not go in to the pen for Meiser Behema purposes. So we'll say, so apparently there's a machlokes regarding tumtum and androgynous. So the Gemara is suggesting that the Brisa is suggesting that according to the Mishnah comes to include tumtum and androgynous are counted as Meiser Behema animals. Rabbi Shimon saying they are not. What is at the root of this machlokes? V'tana didan, sartana bosai, ign gamar tachas mikadshim. So we'll say, if the Mishnah accepts the Gzera Shava of Tachas from Kachim, then Hani Namilo, then Tumtum and androgynous should not be included in Meiser Behema. The same way they're not included in Kachim, they shouldn't be included in Meiser Behema. V'ilo Yalif, but if you don't hold of Tachas, then what? Hani Minole. Ultimately, again, from where I know these halachas? To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you. The Olam Gomer. In reality, the Tanakhama accepts the Gzera Shava of Tachas. V'hani Rachmana Rabinhu. And I will say, ultimately, again, even though the Gzera Shava of Tachas would tell me that just like Tumtum and androgynous is excluded from Kachim, so too it should be excluded from Meiser Behema. There's a ribui. What's the ribui? Here we go. Kimash chasam bahem mum bam lo yeratzu lachem. I will say the pasuk says, when speaking about animals which are disqualified for sacrificial purposes. It says as follows: Umiyad ben nechar lo sakrivu es lechem alokechem. From the hand of a ben nechar, from the hand of a Gentile, you shall not go ahead and offer up the bread to your God. Mikol leila kimash chasam bahem. But say literally again, their destructiveness is inside of them. Mum bam. Ultimately, again, the mum is inside of it, or mum bam, the mum is on it. Lo yiratsu lachem. It will not be acceptable to you, or will not be an acceptable carbon. This is an incredible drasha. Watch this. The Tana debate Rabbi Shmuel, Komakum shene'amar bo hashchasa. They will say wherever you see a lashon of hashchasa, this is incredible. Hashchasa means destructiveness. Wherever you see a lashon of hashchasa, eino ela dvar erva va'avodah zara. The Rabbi says hashchasa always refers to either a matter of immorality or idolatry. How do I know that? Dvar erva dichsiv ki yeshchis kol basar as darko ala aretz. So we'll say dvar erva because we'll say this comes ultimately again back in Bereshis. That ultimately again this is by the Dvar Hamabul. It saw ki yeshchis kol basar darko ba'aretz, and that was a reference to morality. Avodah zara dichsiv pein tashchisun vasisu lachem pesel tumunas kol sema tavnis zacha unikeva. The chol shamum posel bo devar erva va'avodah zara posel bo. So we'll say, watch this. The Torah equates, in this passage, Torah equates a mum, ultimately again with a dvar hashchasa, which the Gemara understands to mean as follows: any situation where a mum invalidates, a matter of immorality or idolatry will invalidate as well. The chol she'ein hamum posel bo. And whenever a mum does not invalidate, then what? Dvar erva va'avodah zara poslen bo. I'm sorry, ein dvar erva va'avodah zara poslen bo. So we'll say this is actually an incredible drasha. The Gemara is understanding through the pasuk that there is a relationship between a mum and ultimately a dvar erva and a dvar avodah zara. To teach me as follows: whenever a mum disqualifies, a dvar avodah zara or erva disqualifies as well. Whenever a mum does not disqualify, a matter of erva or avodah zara will not disqualify either. Now watch this. Where does this come up? Get ready for this. The high meiser, but when it comes to meiser behema, then what? Hoil v'lo pasel beimuma. Remember again, this is incredible. When it comes to meiser behema, mum does not disqualify. Right? You will say even an animal with a mum is part of the Meiser Behema count. Tichsiv lo yivaker ben tov l'ra v'lo yimirenu. They both say, now again, what happens if the 10th animal is a Baal Mum is something we'll discuss. But for our purposes right now, an animal which is a Baal Mum is part of the Meiser Behema cohort, which means that a mum does not disqualify by Meiser Behema. So we'll say, based on what we just said, therefore what's that halacha? If mum does not disqualify, therefore what? Therefore what? A dvar erva and a dvar avodah zara does not disqualify as well. Therefore again, so muma, Sigmar says, v'hai Meiser, hoil v'lo pasel bei muma, dichsiv, lo yivaker ben tov l'ra v'lo yimirenu, dvar erva v'avodah zara, nami lo pasel bei. Therefore, I will say a matter of immorality and a matter of avodah zara will not disqualify by the Meiser Behema as well. Therefore, what? Rova v'nirva dvar erva. Therefore, I will say even if the animal sodomized or was sodomized, it will not disqualify it for Meiser Behema purposes. Muktzah v'ne'avad avodah zara. We'll say ultimately again, muktzah and avad, if it was set aside for avodah zara or worshipped for avodah zara, those are avodah zara things, and again, will not disqualify by Meiser Behema. Esnan, if it's an animal that was given to a harlot for her payment, ultimately that's dvar erva, not disqualified. Umechir, and I will say an animal sold for a dog, iskish la esnan. Ultimately, again, that's compared to an esnan zona, and therefore, again, will not be disqualified. I will say, now we understand. This is quite incredible. This is why, according to the Brisa, all of these animals are still fit for Meiser Behema purposes. Sodomized, was sodomized, worshipped for avodah zara, set aside for avodah zara, esnan, nechir kelev. Why? Because of this unique relationship between mum and Devar Avodah Zarah and Erva. If it's disqualified because of Mum, then it's disqualified because of Devar Erva and Avodah Zarah. If it's not disqualified because of Mum, then it's not disqualified because of Devar Erva and Avodah Zarah. Meiser Behema, as much as it is under this, what we call generally, we assume it's under this Kachim umbrella, is unique, because in order to be part of the Meiser Behema cohort, a Mum does not disqualify. If a Mum does not disqualify, a Dvar Erva and a Dvar Avodah Zarah does not disqualify as well. Quite incredible. But now we understand, however, Tumtum Va'androgynous, I'm sorry, lost the place. Because Tumtum Va'androgynous, so we'll say, what about the case of Tumtum and Androgynous? Kasavar Sveikahu. We'll say, ultimately, again, when it comes to Tumtum and Androgynous, so the Gemara, the Brayso is assuming that it is a suffix. And ultimately, again, because it's a suffix, then we'll say, again, you cannot use it for Meiser Behema. Well, actually, I take that back. So that's a statement. Tumtum androgynous is a suffix. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Omer Kasavar Sveikahu Miet Rachmana Gabi Kachim. I was saying, Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion that when it comes to a suffix animal ultimately again is excluded from Kachim. Why? Zachar Vadai Unikeva Vadais Velo Tumtum Va'androgynous. I was saying, in general, when it comes to Kachim, right, we need definitive gender. Right, either a definitive zachar or a definitive nekeva. Something that is a suffix is simply excluded from the realm of kachim. We'll say, now that's by kachim. Ma'isernami gamar tachas mikachim. And we'll say, ultimately, remember, we subscribe to the Gzeira Shava of tachas, and therefore halacha l'maisa, just like by kachim, you need definitive gender, no gender ambiguity or confusion. By kachim, therefore halacha l'maisa tachas says that's the same thing by meiser behema, and therefore no tumtum and androgynous by meiser behema. So we'll say what comes out is really something dramatically amazing. The Mishnah goes down and lists all of the exclusions, as we saw. Either we're just learning it out from a drasha from the pasuk of Mechusar Zman or Gzeira Shava tachas. But then when we focus on the hakol comes to really include a surprising number of animals in the halachas of Meiser Behema. So Nirva, Rova, Muktzah, Ne'evad, Michir Kelev, Esnan, Zona, excluding Tumtum and Androgynous. And I will say that comes down to, again, the halacha that we just said before, namely, the only time that these items are excluded is when, I should say differently, there is a relationship between mum and all of these other disqualifications. When an animal is disqualified als mum, then it's disqualified als avodah zarah and erva. When it's not disqualified because of mum, it's not disqualified because of avodah zarah and erva. Meiser behema is not disqualified because of mum, therefore no exclusion of erva and avodah zarah. Tumtum and androgynous will be excluded. Why? Because they're a shav of tachas from kachim. Incredible. Says the Gemara, Tana Baran, Hakol nichnasan ladir lehis aser. All animals go into the pen for Meiser behema purposes. Chutz Minakilayim va'treifa divrei Elazar Yehuda ish kfar bartosa shamar mishum Rabbi Yoshua. Suppose I said now we have a brayso that's like our Mishnah, just that limits it a bit. All animals go into the pen for Meiser behema purposes, with the exception of kilayim and treifa. Kilayim and treifa. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda from the village of Bartosa, who said this over in the name of Rabbi Yoshua. So also Rabbi Yoshua has a much smaller list than our Mishnah. I'm going to be Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, Ani shamati, af hayotze dofen, umechusr zman, v'hayosem. Rabbi Akiva says, I heard that there are some more disqualifications. Right? Yotze dofen, C-section, mechusr zman, an animal less than 8 days old, and a yosem, and as the Mishnah defined, the yosem is an animal whose mother was either shechted before it was born or died in childbirth. So Rabbi Akiva adds on to the list. The Tanakama, ikamar tachas mikachim, hani nami lo. So we'll say, let's analyze this. The Tanakama, see if he holds the Gzeira Shava of tachas, then indeed, like Rabbi Akiva, these animals should also be prohibited. V'lo gamar, and if he doesn't hold tachas, bishlam a treifa, kol asher ya'avar tachas hashevet ksiv prat l'treifa shein averes. So let's listen to this. See if he doesn't hold of tachas, then what? I understand the exclusion of treifa. Why? Because the pasuk says, "Kol asher ya'avar tachas hashevet." Shabbos means what? That in order for the animal to be part of the Meiser behema cohort, it has to pass under the staff. I will say now a treifa, one of the disqualifications of a treifa is an animal who's like missing its leg from the joint, which means ultimately again the animal would not be able to walk underneath the shevet. So we'll say that's an example of a treifa, but ultimately again would mean that we would exclude a treifa from ma'aser behema. Ela kilayim minole, but from where would he know that kilayim is excluded? To which the Gemara says the olam gomer. In reality, he learns the tachas drasha. So we'll say ubiyotze dofen amad beis. When it comes to a cesarean section, savarla Reb Shimon. He holds ultimately like Reb Shimon, who holds the Amar Yotze Dofen Vlad Ma'al Yehu. We'll say he holds, Tanakama holds like Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon does not make the distinction between natural birth and Yotze Dofen. He holds that even an animal that is born as a Yotze Dofen, a cesarean section, is a Vlad Ma'alya, is regular offspring. Udelo Rabbi Yochanan. And I will say not like Rabbi Yochanan. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Vlad Ma'alyahu. Vlad Ma'alyahu. Look at Rashi. Meseches Nida Perak Yotzei Dofen Kan Reb Shimon Deharizek Yalod V'imot Mei Aleida. Fine. Reb Zolk Rabbi Yochanan, Rashi says, Tamar Hasam Ha'u Pirka D'mod Reb Shimon Le'in Kachim She'eno Kadosh Tegamar Leida Leida Mechor Debai Rechem. Fine. Mechusar Zman, when it comes to Mechusar Zman, Savlak Reb Shimon Yehuda. He holds like Reb Shimon Yehuda. We'll say, what does Reb Shimon Yehuda hold? Reb Shimon Yehuda holds that even a Mechusar Zman goes into the pen, ultimately again for Meiser Behema purposes. The Gemara says, Mechusar Zman, Reb Shimon Yehuda, Yasam. We'll say, what's the case of Yasam? This is incredible. Kigon Shashalach Kayim. We'll say, what would be the case of Yasam, where he would allow the animal to be counted for Meiser Behema? So let's remember again, the case of Yasam is where the mother died either in childbirth or was shechted before the child was born. So the Tanakh goes ahead and excludes it. Why does this opinion hold that such an animal could ultimately be included in Meiser Behema? It would be a situation where the hide is intact. Now this is incredible. Rabbi Yeshua l'tameh, and I will say this is Rabbi Yeshua according to his reasoning. Because what does Rabbi Yeshua hold? Da'amra afilu shachat es imo v'shalach kayam ein ze yasam. But say Rabbi Yeshua is of the opinion that if you shechted the mother, but the hide is intact, ultimately again this is not called a yasam. Then I will say, now this is actually, we're going to expound this in just a moment. So we'll say, let's analyze this for just a moment. The Gemara's definition of a yasam, up until this point, is a child that comes into this world and the mother is not alive. There is no point in time where the mother and child are both alive the same time in this world. By the time the child is birthed, the mother is already dead. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says as follows. Rabbi Yeshua holds that like this: as long as the mother's hide is intact at the time that the child is born, the child is not called a yasam. I will say, now what are the ramifications of that for us? As long as the child is not a yasam, then what? Then ultimately, again, that child could count towards the Meiser Behema cohort. We'll see what this means in just a moment. Heyed Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel me'arkas levana lifnei Rabbi bimkomenu. So let's listen to this. Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel, interesting name, from Arkas Levana, that's the name of his place. He testified in front of Rebbe, who was in our place. And what did he testify about? Here we go. Mafshitin es hamesa. Let's listen to this. As we're going to see, by the way, Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel was just giving over information. He wasn't specifically talking about Meiser Behema. He's giving information. We are now utilizing that information and applying that to our case. This is incredible. First thing he said was mafshitin es hamesa. When an animal would die in childbirth or before childbirth, what we would do is after the baby is born, we would take the hide of the mother, mafshitin es hamesa, remove the hide from the mother, umabishin es hachaya, and we would wrap the baby in that hide. We would wrap the baby in that hide. So the Gemara says, Amar Rebbe said after he heard this, Niskala Taima Shal Mishnasenu. Now I understand the reason of the Mishnah right before. But remember again, what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said that a Yasam ultimately again is excluded from Meiser Behema. But what did the Mishnah say? Rabbi Yoshua said that as long as the hide is intact, the child is not called a Yasam. What did Rabbi Yoshua mean about saying? Rabbi Yoshua apparently was referencing this practice, where ultimately again, if the mother died, even in childbirth, as long as the hide was intact, they would take the hide of the mother, wrap the baby in the hide, and essentially apparently wrapping the baby in the hide would allow the baby ultimately to thrive in the time after birth as if it was being, cared for by the mother herself. Look at Rashi. Es hamesa kishemekasha machmas havlad mafshitin or haim shehi mesa umabishin osa levlad shuchai umiskayim mipnei davar zeh she'osimo. So apparently again, in the absence of a mother to care for the offspring, this act of swaddling the baby, the offspring, in the hide of the mother would allow the baby to survive. It's actually quite moving. So that I would say that was the first thing. Now again, I want to be clear. Remember again, we're going to see in just a moment, these were a bunch of statements made by Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel. Next thing he said, Chazirin shebemekomenu. I will say now, chazirin in this context does not mean a chazir. It means heads of lettuce. Heads of lettuce, right? The heads of lettuce in our place. Yesh lahem shishim revo kilafim bebeis hameses shalo. The lettuce in our place, when you cut it open, it has 600,000 folds in the inner leaves. Okay, look at Rashi for just a moment. So first of all, Rashi says, "Niskala taimashul mishnasenu devadai mishum haki kamar Yoshua im nolad kozman she'or shashalach kayim enu yasan." So again, remember the Gemara now commented based on the statement of Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel. We now understood the statement of Rabbi Yoshua in our Mishnah. That Rabbi Yoshua in the Mishnah said that if the mother dies in childbirth, but the hide is still intact, the child is not called the Yasam, and therefore wood can still be counted ultimately again for Meiser Behema purposes. The next thing that Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel said is that the heads of lettuce in our locale, when you open them up, they have 600,000 folds in the inner leaves. Rashi says, Beis HaMeses, Hainu Osan Alin Kitanim, Kimo Habasar Atzmo, Sheyesh Ba'osa HaMeses, Shabbat Mishikot. So when you open it up, 600,000 folds. Pamachos, another statement of Rabbi Shmuel ben Sasriel. Pamachos, I will say, so by the way, the Maharsha comments on that. He says, what does that mean? There are 600,000 folds in the head of lettuce, and who cares? I would say, so first of all, what he's trying to show, obviously we're going to see all of these statements are incredibly hyperbolic. The point that he was trying to make is that ultimately, again, there's Torah in everything. There's Ruchnius in everything, and everything in the world is powered ultimately through the power of Torah. And when one looks at the world with Torah-dika eyes, one is able to see Torah, Ruchnius, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu in everything, to the point that even in the inner folds of the leaves of the lettuce, there are spiritual lessons to be learned if you look at those leaves with the right set of eyes. And I will say, isn't this true? Everything is based on the eyes you look at the world. If you look with cynical, sarcastic, jaded eyes, the world is a wonderful ocean of cynicism. There's always something to say, there's always a comment to make, there's always a jab to be had. But if you look at the eyes, if you look at the world with eyes of Ruchnius, eyes of Torah, eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then by definition there's spiritual beauty to be seen in every person, in every situation, and certainly in yourself. He goes on. One time a cedar tree fell down in our place. Kronos al chudo. And we'll say, so one time a cedar tree fell down in our place, and ultimately what happened? 16 wagons were able to drive over the spine of the tree. The cedar was so wide that 16 wagons side by side were able to drive on the trunk of the wagon. We'll say on the trunk of the cedar. Obviously, again, hyperbolic. We'll say, what's the message over here? So perhaps it's like this. So we'll say, remember again, what's the message of the cedar? Tzadik katamar yifrach, ki erez balavanon yiskeh. Ultimately, we'll say, remember again, so the interesting part about the cedar, right? The tzaddik is compared to both the tamar, the date palm, and the cedar. Why both? The cedar is strong, but it doesn't produce fruit. The date palm is not as strong, but it produces fruit. What's the job of the tzaddik? The job of the tzaddik ultimately again is to be, in order to be a tzaddik, you have to have this twofold. You have to be a tamar and an erez. You have to be personally strong, and you have to give fruit to others. Right? If you're just strong yourself, but you don't give anything to anyone, not enough. If you give to other people, but you're not personally strong, your fruits are diminished and your fruits are weak. The tzaddik has to be the strong cedar, personally strong, and at the end of the day, have to give fruit to others. What's the message over here? I will say the cedar has to be wide enough that the wagons of others could pass over it. Right? The cedar has to be wide enough that the tzaddik is never just out for himself. The tzaddik always has to be able to support the weight of the needs of others on his shoulders. Even 16 wagon loads, right, across, the tzaddik has to have such broad shoulders to support the needs of the Am. Next, Pamachos, Naflas Beitzas Bar Yuchni. I will say this is incredible. I will say, so one time, this is incredible. The Bar Yuchni, I will say, now the Bar Yuchni is a bird. One time, which is a very large bird. The Bar Yuchni one time dropped one of its eggs. The Tava Shisha Krachim, and when the egg cracked, 6 cities drowned in the liquid of the egg. The 60 cities, 60 cities drowned in the liquid of the egg. And what happens? V'shavra shlosh me'os arazim. And 300 cedars ultimately again were broken. It's a big egg. Big egg. You're supposed to say, watch this. So the Gemara says, here's what's amazing. So the Gemara says, Umi shajile. So like this is the big kasha. Does the Bar Yuchni go ahead and throw down its eggs? Chas v'shalom v'aksiv knath renanim nelsa. We'll say, so the Rashi over here quotes the Darshans as pasuk and says, the way the Bar Yuchni works, I will say, is the beauty of the Bar Yuchni is it flies very high, and then it slowly deposits its egg in the nest. Slowly deposits its egg in the nest. So would the Bar Yuchni ever go ahead and what? And discard its egg, drop its egg? Amar Rav Ashi, hahu muzar tahavi. So Rav Ashi says it was a rotten egg. Right? It was an egg that had no chick, an egg that was not going to fertilize, and the Bar Yuchni discards that type of egg. But we'll say, you hear the incredible Musar? You have to know in life which eggs to keep in your nest and which eggs to discard. Because the eggs that should be discarded, I will say, sometimes are rotten through and through. And not only do they ruin your nest, but they could ultimately ruin cities. They could destroy cedars. Life is all about knowing, I will say, which midos, which attributes, which character traits, what should you keep in your nest, which influences should you keep in your nest, and what ultimately, again, should you discard. So I'll say, so 3 incredible pieces of Musar, one of which was necessary in order to go ahead and teach us the halacha in the Mishnah, the other teaching us incredible life lessons as well. Says the Mishnah, Shalosh granos lemais shabeim. I will say, here we're going to come to a very interesting halacha. There are 3 different granos. I will say, granos literally means threshings. We're really, in this context, what it means is 3 different intervals. 3 intervals for ma'aser behema. What are the 3 intervals? Bechoros haPesach. Suppose actually, if you look at Rashi just a moment, Rashi says Shalosh Granos Ma'aser Behema. Kolomar b'Shalosh Prakim b'Shana Haviz Man Ma'aser Behema. At 3 different times throughout the year is the Zman, is the time for Ma'aser Behema. Shabehemus sheyodulo bein perek leperek sarich lo la'aser kisheyagia haperek. The Mishiagia haperek lo ne'achal mehem lechatchila midrabanan below Ma'aser. So it says we're going to see like this. See, we're going to get into when exactly is there an obligation to do Ma'aser Behema. When does this obligation exist? So we're going to see essentially is there are 3 different times throughout the year where there is a proper time for Ma'aser Behema. That if the interval arrives, it's time to do Ma'aser, and you really should not eat of the animals without tithing the flock at that particular interval. That's going to be the basic halacha. Aval kodim lachin mutter the mitzvah ba'amahu la'aser be'imosav ta'asiri kodesh. Fine. So we'll say, so one of the three intervals, and again, we'll discuss this in greater depth in the Gemara, but one of the three intervals, the Bechoros Pesach. So we'll say, so for now, I'll translate it ultimately again as literally halfway to Pesach, which as we're going to means 15 days before Pesach. Bechoros Atzeres, 15 days before Shavuos. Bechoros Chag, 15 days before Sukkot. Hein granas shal meiser behema. We'll say these are the meiser behema intervals, which means, again, sounds like what it means is, when you get to these points, if you have not yet done meiser behema on your flock, you really should do so prior to consuming any of the animals. Div Rabbi Akiva, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Ben Azai says, he disagrees on the intervals. Be'esrim Tisha B'Adar, 29th of Adar. Be'echad B'Sivan, 1st of Sivan. Be'esrim Tisha B'Av, 29th of Av. These are the granos. Rabbi Shimon Omrim, Be'echad B'Nisan, Echad B'Sivan, Be'esrim Tisha B'Elul. Okay, so we'll say, so obviously there's just some level of machlokes exactly what the intervals are. Apparently everyone's agreeing that what? That there are 3 times throughout the year. Machlokes is just what those 3 times are. So the Gemara goes weiter. So the Gemara says, by the way, why are you saying 29th of El and not Rosh Hashanah, 1st of Tishrei? In other words, the Gemara is saying, whenever we speak about intervals, so it sounds like intervals are always like, if possible, if you're already at the 29th of Elul, why not make it the 1st of Tishrei? Because it will say ultimately the 1st of Tishrei is a Yom Tiv. The Afshar la'asr be Yom Tiv. But remember again, we don't take Trumas and Maisrus on Yom Tiv in general, right? It's a prohibition to be Ma'aser, whether it's your food or it's your flock, on Rosh Hashanah, or on any Yom Tiv or Shabbos for that matter. Therefore, make it the 29th of El. Therefore, again, we push back the date to the 29th of El. Rabbi Meir says, Be'echad be'elul Rosh Hashanah l'maiser behema. Rabbi Meir says that Rosh Chodesh Elul is the Rosh Hashanah for Maiser behema. Ben Azai Omar, ha'elulim misasrim b'fnei atzman. What's very interesting? Ben Azai says the elulim, animals born during Elul, are part of their own cohort. We'll see why. They're tithed on their own. Kala noladim me'echad b'tishrei ad esrim v'tisha be'elul hare elu mitzdarfin. I will say, here's what's interesting. After we get finished saying that there are 3 different intervals for Meiser Behema, possibly 4, if you reckon the Elul animals as their own cohort, the Mishnah says, but by the way, all animals born between the 1st of Tishrei and the 29th of Elul, meaning born in one calendrical year, Hari Elu Mitzdarfin. We'll say all of those form one Meiser Behema cohort. So we'll see how to reconcile this. On one end, the Mishnah is telling me that there are 3 different intervals for Meiser Behema. Then it says what? That halacha l'maisa, all animals born between Rosh Hashanah and the 29th of Elul are really part of one cohort. The Gemara Mishnah goes on. So Chamisha Avnei Rosh Hashanah, Chamisha La'achar Rosh Hashanah, Ein Mitzdarfin. If you have 5 animals born before the 1st of Tishrei, 5 animals born after the 1st of Tishrei, they are not mitzdarif. They do not combine to form a Meiser Behema cohort. Chamish Lefnei Agorin v'chamish La'achar Agorin, Hare Elu Mitzdarfin. But I will say, if you have 5 born before one of the Goren dates mentioned in the Mishnah, and 5 born after one of the Goren dates mentioned in the Mishnah, they are mitzdarif. That's what we just said before. Animals born in the same calendrical year are all mitzdarif. Even if 5 are born before one of the Goren dates, 5 are born after one of the other Goren dates, they're mitzdarif. If that's the case, Imkin lama ne'amru shalosh kronos l'maiser behema. So we'll say, so now if you're telling me, this is Avi Shaila, if you're telling me that all animals born during the same calendrical year, between the 1st of Tishrei and the 29th of Elul, are all part of the same Goren, if that's the case, then what? Why do you give me these 3 granos? What's the point exactly of these 3 interval dates? To which the Gemara says, Sha'ad shelo higia hagoren mutar limkar v'lishchot. Because I will say, until the Goren date comes along, there are no limitations on your usage of your flock. You could sell, you could shecht. However, higia hagoren lo yishchot. I will say, once the goren date comes, then reality, again, the halacha is you really should be tithing your flock. And you really ultimately, again, should not be partaking of that flock, neither selling it nor shechting it until you've gone ahead and done meiser behema. However, v'imshachat pater, let's say if it turns out that you ate from your animals without doing meiser behema, ultimately, again, you are pater. So therefore, I will say, what comes out of here is as follows. Halach l'maisa, all animals born during the same calendrical year, from 1st of Tishrei to the 29th of Elul, are all part of the same meiser behema cohort. What's the point of the granas? We'll say the granas tell you really should be doing meiser behema at these intervals. Obviously, we'll say you only have to do meiser behema once per cohort. You don't have to keep doing it every single time. Once per cohort, you have to do it. So any animals born during a particular calendrical year, you have to do it. The point of the granas, we'll say, is to say, come on, you really should be doing meiser behema now. If you have not done it yet, you really should do it before eating these animals, selling these animals, but Allah Chalamayis, as long as you've did it once over the course of the calendrical year for the particular cohort, you've satisfied your obligation. Well, so now we're going to pick up in Yom Tov tomorrow.